And welcome back, everyone, to our wonderful Small Fleet and Owner Operator Summit. I hope you guys have learned a lot today, but we're going to learn some really important steps for especially this audience in getting off the load boards and getting your hands into those direct shipper relationships. And we all know that's important, I think, coming out of the markets we've seen in the last couple of years, going into what we're seeing so far this year. And to help us navigate the strategies behind that, we've got Justin Lu, founder of Truckpedia, here with us, a transportation management system for all of you out there. Justin, I would love if you could maybe introduce yourself to our audience and tell them about your journey in freight as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. My name is Justin, second generation trucker. My experience in trucking actually started from helping my dad scaling his trucking company from 3 to 50 trucks. And I mainly made that happen by working with shippers directly and converting 100% of a spot market, a low for lows to about 60% direct, 40% working with brokers to scale that company. And that journey led me to founding Truckpedia TMS today to help other trucking companies automate their technology. And how do you find shippers? Trucking companies typically are very busy doing data entry, all the $5 tasks, and they often neglect the most important task. I call them the $500 task, which is finding direct customers and increasing their profit margins.
No, best way to explain that, right? I mean, it's so interesting that you touch on this like $500 task because I think you're 100% right. And there's a lot of, this industry is a lot of like telephone, right? The more entities you have between the transaction, of course, the more money is lost, but even that relationship becomes less and less, I think, tight, right? And so to see this nice mix, that 60/40, I think is great, right? Of direct shipments and then brokerage relationships. There's a reason why you're able to scale to so many assets. Now, I'm interested in this aspect in particular, right? For finding those direct shipper relationships. Why is that so important for not only your father's company, but for the small carriers watching today?
I think having consistency and dedicated freight is going to be the key for your operations because most of the time owners, dispatchers, the first thing they do after they wake up is scrolling through DAT, either trying to find outbound loads or backhaul for the trucks. And when you're doing that time, it takes away your time from thinking about other things and having that consistency. For example, we got 5 trucks, right? And you got 5 outbound loads every week from 3 small shippers. And all you have to worry about is backhaul. And it's consistently having those freight, having those knowing that you're going to have 5 loads next week to pick up, it just reduces your workload almost by 50%. And once you have free up those time, you have much more time to work on your business rather than in the business. And knowing your numbers, what's my profit margin? A lot of trucking companies didn't know that. My dad didn't know his profit margin was less than 7% when I joined him. I had to find out the hard way. And by working with shipper directly, what immediately happens is you're gonna have at least about 10% higher than working with entirely from low boards. There's nothing wrong working with brokers, but it's just not a consistent business that can keep your company going, right? If you do the mix right there, 10% higher than what you're getting paid, immediately it bump you from 7% to 17%. And if you mix in the 60 to 40% mix, and normally outbound loads pay a lot better than backhaul, you're looking about roughly around 15% profit margin. Now, just imagine if you're doing $1 million in revenue per year, having that 7 to 8% extra in margin, that makes all the difference at how many people you can hire, what technology you can adopt, and how fast you want to scale your company. And I think every company needs to think about that. It is that most trucking companies were never told, and a lot of carriers don't think that they can find shippers. You don't need to work with Costco. You don't need to work with Coca-Cola. You can just find your neighbors who can give you literally 3 to 5 loads a month, and find 5 of those. It will give you consistent freight to get you started.
Well, and when I hear consistent freight from running more of like the operations side of a lot of these businesses, I also hear consistent like P&L, right? Consistent advantage in seeing where your business is moving ahead of time, right? And the capabilities to, I mean, Consistency also means knowing how long it's going to take to get loaded, knowing how long it's going to take to get unloaded, knowing those routes over and over again, right? Where to take a left, where to take a right, understanding the roads more, and knowing where the truck stops are, and that consistency I think leads to even some of those really small, those $5 things, right, that can add up once you start to get that consistent business as well. Now, with that being said, I know for carriers, it can be difficult building those direct shipper relationships. What mistakes do you see sometimes these smaller entities making when approaching shippers directly?
I think a couple of things. The first thing is uh, giving up too early. A lot of times, working with shippers, they're not going to give you their load on your first try, second try, third try. On average, it'd take you about 10 to 12 attempts before they start working with you. But most of those carriers give up on the third try. They go, I got ghosted, not replying. And I think the second one is their approach, where trucking company owners often don't even know where to start. Where how do I even find shippers, and where do I even start? And they hear some from the friends, oh, go knock on doors of the warehouses you go visit, and often they say, okay, let's give it a try. They pump themselves up, they get a business card ready, and they got their website built, they got everything ready to go, and then they go knock on doors. Knock on one, reject it. Knock on two, reject. Knock on three, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they get discouraged. Oh, this is not easy. I think a lot of times what happened is I got rejected too the first few times by walking directly to the front door, where the receptionists, the gatekeepers, would keep they're gatekeeper for a reason. They get paid to keep you out of the operations. And what worked really well for me, I think any carrier can make this happen, is map out, look at where your office is, where your parking lot is. Map out the warehouses that you know often have truck traffic going in and out. You know they have loads going in and out and truckloads. And if you see that, map it out and be prepared. Don't go to the front desk. Like, don't go to the large warehouse, where the decision maker will never be there, right? The larger the warehouse, the less likely you're going to find a decision maker. But the smaller the warehouse, the better it is. The loading docks are open. There's only two or three of them. We're less than five. You go there, don't go to the front office. Go straight to the back. Oftentimes the forklift driver, the person greeting you, is a decision maker. Now, when you get those people to talk with directly, you see the difference of, oh, let me take your business card. I'll pass it out to, how many truck do you have? Right? Oh, you're my neighbor. Okay. What lanes do you run? Having conversations started and taking notes on what their needs are. I think these two mistakes are very commonly seen is, right, knocking on doors, going to the front door. Second one is just not being consistent, giving up too early. Regardless which channel, there's so many channels when it comes to marketing, outbound channels, inbound channels. Pick one channel. Whether it's cold calling, email marketing, going to trade shows, or knocking on doors, pick one channel and don't give up until they tell you, don't call me again, I'm not interested. If they say, oh, I don't have a need now, check back, right? Don't bug them daily, every 2 weeks, every month. Send them a email, give them a text, give them a quick call, just so they don't forget about you when the needs come up.
Love that. Yeah, that follow up. I mean, I have more of a brokerage experience, but I can't. Honestly, the shippers that would give me their freight on the first call made me the most nervous, right? So it's like,
Exactly, exactly. They're giving everyone a shot. They're just rate shopping. Whoever give the cheapest rate will go with you, and they'll fire you anytime.
exactly. So you almost want to see those signs of having to work for the relationship, because for me, I think that just means that you have a better chance of something long standing, right? And let's say for the shippers out there, just maybe starting to get traction with us shippers, or starting to take this advice from you as well. What's that challenge between moving from maybe brokered or spot load freight to working directly with shippers as well? Does the freight or does the transaction change at all?
The challenge between working with a shipper directly is, the first thing is, oh, it's my factory if you're factoring a lot of small fleets factors, is my factoring company going to, approve this shipper or not? How do I do that? And how do I do their credit check? I think I get that asked that question a lot. There are a lot of resources online where you can do credit check. And very often, the first time when I started working with shippers is I asked if they can do COD, right? It's like, can you pay me upon delivery? And can we negotiate a 7-day term or 15-day term, and start small and working over there? Um, it's actually, in my opinion, like shippers, there isn't a lot of challenge working with shippers because they won't chase you after every update. Like if you do well on the first few loads, and because you're working with brokers, for example, you work with this office, you work with that office, you work with that office, even within the same broker, let's say NTG or TQL, every office is different. They're going to require tracking. If you're not tracking, they'll fine you $200 for your driver not tracking for 3 hours on macro point. Shippers are less strict. As long as you earn their trust, they're going to give you, you know, they're going to give you the freedom just to deliver on time. They don't care about any of that stuff. So I actually find it to be easier to work with shippers. And because I make their job so much easier, my drivers show up, I communicate effectively. Uh, that's kind of the relationship piece we mentioned about working with them. The only thing I would say is just starting out is, you need to have a shipper carrier packet because when we work with brokers, they give you a broker carrier agreement. You have to sign that. But shippers, very often, a small one, they won't have anything, right? You need to sort of come up with a shipper carrier agreement and work out the payment terms and making sure they pay you and negotiate on detention pay, all the accessorial fees. And I think those would probably be the bigger changes when you're shifting from working with brokers, where brokers entirely telling you what to do, but now you're on the other side where you can actually negotiate, right? Negotiate the terms, negotiate everything until you earn their trust, and it'll become easier as you do more. More challenge might be some technical challenge where, hey, I need to do an EDI integration with our WMS, with our TMS. So you may have to be prepared as you keep on scaling. That question will come up. And if you don't even know what an EDI is, where very often most fleets, small fleets owners have never heard of it. They don't know what EDI is. But if you don't know that, I actually literally had carriers coming to me because they worked on 8 months to chase a shipper, finally got it, and not knowing, I said, hey, let's do EDI connection for load tendering. He goes, what's EDI? And just from there is that, well, never mind, you're not ready. Go get it set up and then come back to me again, right? So I think there's a lot more homework, a lot of lessons to be learned for business owners as they start, going down the path of securing that 50-50, 60-40 split between dedicated shipper freights with shippers and brokers. I think those are crucial to keep in mind as they go down that path.
Well, I love that you touched on the EDI thing because I definitely agree with you there. Is there any other maybe technology that you think small carriers should be considering if they are going to start building these more direct relationships with shippers as well?
I think most carriers are very used to pen paper spreadsheet or even a outdated TMS, where they don't even have time to look up the newer technologies. The last 3 to 5 years, at least 5 or 6 TMS carrier TMS providers came out to disrupt the market, made it extremely affordable. Automated data entry, automated tracking, automated invoicing, driver settlement. I think every carrier, it will cost them about $300 a month to do all of those things. I think every carrier out there with 5+ trucks should have a modern TMS that can help them automate the $5 tasks as much as they can, so that even working with shippers, like they're not going to ask you for update. Doesn't mean you can't send it to them. Give them an update when your driver arrives. Give them an update when your driver departs. Give them an update or inform them, let them know 30 minutes before you enter detention time. Hey, driver, be here for an hour, 30 minutes, just so you know we're about to hit detention in 30 minutes. See if you can speed up, right? They will appreciate that. That's not right. If they see that message in the warehouse, oh, they can go in there. Hey, get this truck out of there. I don't want to pay detention, right? So they'll appreciate those reminders, and those can be done automated through technology. And in the past, I think even 10 years ago, these kind of technology don't exist for small carriers. But right now, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, AI actually can perform at a human level doing the simple things. It's not complicated. It can be very simply done for any fleet and making it extremely affordable so that you can provide better services, not just to shippers, but to brokers as well, right? You want to be selective with the brokers you work with. You want to be selective with the shippers you work with so that you can have better revenue for your team. And that is all driven by technology. End of the day, it's all driven by technology. Free up your people's time so you can train them, you can educate them to learn more, to do more, to provide better services, to learn how to land more customers, to keep expanding, to keep drivers happy so you don't have any driver retention problem and keep your customers happy, right? I think this is probably the most overlooked part from trucking owners is not adopting technology fast enough just to scale their business.
Definitely. And you've left people with great advice, I think, so far with this chat. And outside of, telling some of these small carriers to reach out to their son and maybe have them help improve some of the business as well. Any last minute advice you'd want to give our audience as we wrap this up too?
I think carriers should be open-minded when it comes to adopting technology, and definitely should get their if they have younger kids, get them involved because a lot of those younger people tend to ask the why. They'll have to challenge the status quo. Why do you do things this way? How can I do it more efficiently? I think business owners start to think about the why. Why am I doing the $5 task? Can I allocate this task to someone else? And if I allocate to someone else, can that task be automated, right? If it cannot be automated, then I allocate a task to someone else. I think they need to start to think about task delegation to their sons, to their kids, to anybody, to their employees, so that they can start thinking about bigger picture. What's my numbers, right? What's my numbers? And if I want my margin to be this percentage, 10%, 12, 15%, how do I get there? Is it by reducing my costs on fuel expenses, my tires, my repairs, or is it by bringing up my revenue, right? So they cannot think about these things unless they free up about 30% of their time that can be done either through technology or delegation to people in their office. So I think every owner should start think about that, start planning rather than just living day by day. Think ahead, 3 month ahead, 6 month ahead, 12 month ahead. What's my goal? What do I want to accomplish at the end of a year? And what do I want my margin to be? And you have to plan ahead of time in order to make that happen.
Yeah, all of this is great, Justin. It's even better about this is this industry has always been kind of a generational industry, right? Second, third, fourth generation drivers and company owners. And I always tell people I get really excited about this next generation of trucking entrepreneurs, and I'm hoping that they come from the generations of those before, just like yourself too. So thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to learn more about Truckpedia, where should they go?
Truckpedia.io, go on our website, schedule a call, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will be more than happy to, for anyone that find this chat helpful, we'll be more than happy to chat more about how I can bring value to the trucking community. Like you said, right, second generation, the younger generation. I just came back from TCA truckload conference, and we're seeing a lot of younger generation joining the family business, thinking differently, challenging the previous generation, bring technology, automate. So we're seeing that happening. And with AI, how much and how it can do next 3 to 5 years will be very exciting for our trucking industry. I'm very excited for it.
Me as well. And for the day that this is airing, tomorrow we can find both myself and Justin at Matt's as well. So hopefully we see you all there. Until then, audience, thank you so much for watching and continue enjoying the rest of today's show.